What about what the moments of utopia and the problems with utopia are? And then she starts to kind of focus a little bit on what's special about live performance that enacts this idea of utopia. And this is where it gets really into this conversation about liveness, because in 2001, performance theorists are really battling, I think, with this idea of what does it mean when something is live? Is it inherently better than something that's mediatized, so something that's recorded? And she's saying really clearly, so Philip Houselander was the theorist that said this first, and she's saying really clearly, I don't believe this, I don't buy it as an argument, that there isn't that she's saying that the cliches and mystifications that Auslander's talking about, I believe that theatre has this magic, and I believe that it forms a community, and she wants to hold on to that. So as she's kind of arguing against this idea that Ausland is saying that that can only happen in a live performance as opposed to in a recorded performance, is problematic because it relies on magic. And then she's saying, Dolan is saying, yeah, but I believe in magic. Basically, that's the kind of too long didn't read version of this, is that there's something about live performance which is inherently utopic, which is fanciful. No, that's not going to work either, is it? It's full of fantasy. Let's put it that way around. And again, you see, this isn't so much a thesis statement. It's like, now we've done all of that, here's my second thesis statement. So now I've quantified everything I'm saying. Here is the narrowed down version, which is theatre can move us towards understanding the possibility of something better, and perhaps that could change the culture. And that's a really beautiful moment. And that gets us, that thesis statement gets us to this idea of what the utopic performative is. Performative is a really fancy pants word. And where it comes from is a line and a definition between performance and theatre. It's a big, big idea. Performance is something that can happen in everyday life, whereas theatre is something that happens on stage. So again, that doesn't seem to clear it up. But if we think about the way that we are in our everyday life, if I was, I've got a phone right near me, no one has ever rung this phone in all of the time I've had it, but if someone was to ring this phone and, I don't know, for some reason it was a bank, you would hear, if it was still recording, my voice go into the slightly alarmed, posher version of my own voice. I'm a little bit panicked about how this bank manager has got my phone number, or realistically, it's a scam. If my phone rang, my mobile phone rang, and I left it recording, it might be with the school, and then you would hear my worried parent voice, which is everyone all right? Is everything okay? What's happened? Why are you calling me? And those kinds of performances, it's not that I'm consciously going, I must do my worried mum voice. It's that voice is slightly different from my teaching and talking to you voice, which is slightly different from my talking to the cat voice, which is slightly different to my I want this job interview voice. And also these different aspects of my life require different kinds of performances. Now, that performativeness means something a little bit extra even than that. So it comes from this idea that when we say particular phrases, those phrases do something. So for example, this comes from linguistics. You don't really need to know loads about that at the moment, but it comes from the 60s, 1960s, when people were kind of investigating words a lot. And this idea is clearly taking a lot of drugs, spending a lot of time thinking about words. The phrase, when you get married, of I pronounce you man and wife, is doing something. So it's not just saying something. And if we imagine in kind of courtroom dramas, I sentence you to death, that's doing something. So the sentence is enacted with this phrase. So performative is a word which means that something is actually happening within the moment of the performance. So for example, if you kind of hear stories of a stage gun going off, this my instant response was to go to the bleakest possible one, a stage gun going off and someone really getting shot, but the audience being like, oh my God, this is the most beautiful performance that's ever happened. And the actor's like, no, get out, this is bad, I've been shot, this is not. And equally, apparently my mind is full of these terrible examples. There was a very famous comedian whose name has completely disappeared now. Tommy, I can't think what he's called. Anyway, he was famous for doing really long shows after the show was supposed to finish. Like he would go on to like 1 or 2 in the morning, and he died on stage, and it's awful. But when he collapsed on stage, people thought that it was part of the show, and so they were laughing and laughing and laughing, and then they realised, hang on a minute, this isn't a show, this is real. So if we think of pretend shot on stage as theatrical, oh, my blood pack has gone off, I'm bleeding, I've really been shot. No, that's really happening. That is performative, that thing is happening. So less extreme examples of that might be if someone forgets a lines, or if somebody breaks character and laughs on stage, or if someone talks to us or confronts us with different ideas that are kind of really happening. So, for example, Patti LuPone is famous for stopping the show and saying, get off your phone, if you carry on, you're out. So what does all that have to do with this? Well, these moments, even though they might be presented in deeply theatrical systems, they exist in moments of real hope and desire. So really beautiful. I know I talked about this last week. In that moment of hair, you can really see an example of one of these.